Hey everyone, how's it going? This is round two technically. I just recorded a 30-minute video of this and it didn't record my voice. But yeah, this is a sort of how it was made video that's going to cover Chances, which was the second single from my album. And yeah, I'm just going to kind of go through this project file a bit and hopefully give you an idea about, I guess, what makes up the track and how it came together. So to start, we have this main electric guitar riff. This is the first thing I made for this track. I think I was sitting at my desk watching Netflix or something, just messing around the guitar, and ended up coming up with this. And it kind of stuck out to me as, I don't know, something that could be sort of be a cool bass line for, I don't know, more of a sort of a housey guitar track, you know? Sorry, there's a lot going on in this project. I laid that down right away. Actually, there's a funny story because this, what I ended up using in this track, so the guitar you just heard was the first take I did. And when it was time to mix and master this track and really get it polished, it kind of felt like a weak link, and like I could do it better just because I had to edit the timing so much. And overall, I just had to do way too much to try and get it to fit. But for the life of me, I could not replicate the tone and just, I guess, the exact sound I got with this. And everything else I tried sounded like, even if I played it better, it just sounded like total trash to me. So as you can see by the channel strip a bit here, and this is actually bounced in place, but if I could show you like the flex time nodes, and I mean, you can't see all the automation just for some of the volume here, but yeah, it kind of felt like fitting a square peg into a round hole, or trying to. But anyway, it's besides the point. So once I had that, I just laid down sort of an outline for the drums. And obviously these are the finished drums I settled on, but this was more or less what I had in the first, 30 minutes of coming up with this track. And yeah, it felt really good to me, but obviously it's still quite empty. So the next thing I did was just fill it out with some bass. This is just a simple sine wave. I'll solo it though. And then layered on top of that is a fake electric bass that I just, there was some instrument in Contact. And that just fills up the sort of the low mid range of this a bit more. And actually doubling up on that though, I played that bass line just as offbeats on my electric guitar, and this also is kind of in that low mid area. And then you add in the actual sub. What am I doing? There we go. And that feels like that feels pretty full to me. I mean, at that point, I knew it didn't need much more, and there really isn't much more. The only thing I have playing the chords is just this little sine wave pad, and the first instance of this I actually used in Her. I think it's in the intro, and I maybe throughout, but I wish. Well, here, let me play it for you first. and it sounds really beautiful, and I wish it was something I came up with, but in all honesty, it's just Gentle Sign Bells, this patch from Alchemy, which is a synth that's included with Logic now. But it's, after using it in Her, it's, I don't know, I've used it in numerous songs since then, because it's such a nice sound, and if you throw a lot of reverb on it, it can be this really spacey pad, and yeah, it's just definitely one of my favorite sounds. So yeah, once we bring in those, we have the guitar already. And I guess since I just muted it, I'll acknowledge what this is. It's just adding a little more space to this. It's just basically the transients of this piano and then some delay and reverb. And it's, if I muted it, you probably wouldn't notice, but it's just one of those things that helps fill it out a bit more. And then just quick, there's a double that comes in on the second half of the drop. So we have this, and then that double comes in left, and then there's also 2 acoustic guitars panned right. And I guess I'll just get this out of the way. You'll probably notice, like, when I'm soloing out some of these guitar parts and whatnot, they might not sound all that great on their own, and there are plenty of issues, whether it's tuning, little clicks, slides. But I mean, part of the appeal of having guitars in sort of like a quote unquote EDM song is, I guess, the imperfections they can bring. So I tried not to stress too hard about making everything sound computerized. And I mean, also, sorry, my throat's a bit dry here. And also the sidechain actually masks quite a bit of that. So, I mean, I'll play the guitars without it. And I guess even then, even just having all of them play at the same time, those small little errors that you can hear while soloed they just kind of end up blending in a bit. But then once you bring in the drums and have it all start pumping from the side chain, then it all sounds quite a bit tighter. And beyond that, so I mean, what you just heard is pretty much like the song. And what came after that was adding in the vocals, because as nice as that is, it's still not. It didn't have the level of interest that I knew it needed. So during the second half of the drop, that's when the little vocal hooks come in. And the first one is this, which these are both actually just the same file. It's supposed to be like this, but here, let me do this actually. So this is what it sounded like normally. And mind you, there's still all these effects on here. And I guess because why not? Here's what it is without anything on it. Then you put all this on, and then I pitched it up to kind of be in key, but this first one isn't. So obviously that's not necessarily in key. So I just separated them, ended up pitching this one up 3 more semitones. Oh, sorry. This should be 13. The other one should be 10. And yeah, I thought that sounded quite good. It's a little tinsely, but again, with everything going on, and once you sidechain it. Plus, to be honest, this song is, there aren't too many bright things happening anyway, so it was, I think having it, even if it is a little tinsely, like with some pretty harsh high end, having that come in during the second half of the drop is, it adds, I mean, it's a pretty big sonic change, so it adds a little bit more interest just with that on its own. I mean, in addition to obviously having this new melody come in. And these vocals are essentially kind of doing a call and response thing. So we have that first one you just heard, and then that's followed up with actually, I think I missed a fade in there. You can hear that little click. But yeah, so they, like, this is the little call, and then you have your response. And that's actually something I like to do quite a bit. I'd say the best other example I can think of off the top of my head is Golden Hour. But in that song, it does it with guitar and vocals. So you have that guitar riff right as the drop hits, and every 4 bars or something. And then there's that like vocal chop line or whatever that it's essentially responding to that guitar riff. And yeah, that's kind of the song. You have the guitars, you have the drums, and then the vocals. The rest is really just filler. And and I guess even in that sense, this, compared to my other songs, this has significantly less than any of my other ones. Because this is the only, I don't know, background sort of atmospheric pad sound I have going on. There are, I think this only happens once, but it is in various stages of the song. Sorry, and that's just these little arpeggios here, which sound more complicated than they are. And I mean, that's just really like running through all the like scale degrees of this song, or most of them. I'm too lazy to look through and actually analyze it right now, and even sonically it is. So if I take all of this stuff off, even this arp, it's like, this is the ultimate like lazy thing. It's just a basic sine wave, and I don't know why I do it like this. I think it just happened once and I saved it like this, but it's just the like default patch for Logic's sampler, which is just a sine wave. And the first thing I did to make that more interesting was add distortion. And then I added this, and this is an arpeggio, and that's what gives it this sort of video gamey sound. And you have your delay, tremolo, which I use Logic's stock tremolo as like an auto panner a lot. So this is what's bringing it like panned left to right. And then cutting out low end, and then Valhalla Shimmer, which is my favorite thing ever. And then this is just cutting off some final low end. I typically do that. Like whenever I add Valhalla Shimmer to a channel, I'll usually high pass it with like an EQ or a filter after that, just to take out any low frequencies that might be introduced with Valhalla Shimmer. And what else? Is this doing anything? Oh, okay, I guess I lied. So there's that atmospheric track and this one, but if I muted this one, you probably wouldn't know. Percussion stuff, there really isn't anything special going on. There's a shaker, tambourine, these little clicky things. I've probably talked about this in the past, but I do, even though I believe oh, okay, I didn't bounce the shaker. I typically do a lot of like envelope shaping with percussion loops because I just like to tighten them up a lot and just to control the sound a bit more. And soothe, I encourage anyone, like there's which is Mr. Bill, I think. He has a very long YouTube video covering this, and it's an excellent plugin. It basically sort of automatically removes annoying resonances. So these are those are the frequencies it's removing, and it just kind of, there's obviously lots of settings, and if you're more interested in it, I'd go watch that video, but it's a nice plugin to subtly soften things up a bit without just shaving off the high end. And yeah, I guess to try and move things along a bit more, we have this post-chorus or post-drop section that kind of transitions into the bridge. And this isn't anything special. The guitar riff just cuts out. And then what really carries it is this little melody here. And that sound is actually just the same thing I went over here. Probably just with actually, I don't think it's any different. Yeah, because I do the same thing in the bridge, and yeah, it's just that basic sine wave, the delay, tremolo, shave the low end off, and Valhalla shimmer. And yeah, I mean, there's really nothing special about this section here. I think something happened here, and this isn't... Sorry, Rosie's barking. I don't know why. This should be louder. I don't know why it's not in this project right now. But sorry, I'm rambling, and I'm trying to stay focused here just because I made this video already. But I guess I didn't really make it since I don't have anything to post. So here we are. But yeah, I guess the remaining big thing to really talk about is the bridge. This was kind of an odd journey that I didn't really expect to be so difficult, because this was, again, kind of around the time I just got an acoustic guitar. And I also discovered, unlike with some electric guitar stuff, if you try to correct the timing using Logic's flex time, it sounds like absolute garbage on acoustic guitars. And if I wanted it to be such a primary element of this bridge, I couldn't rely on that. So I had like an embarrassing amount of takes of just this extremely simple bridge part. And it's just a very easy arpeggio. And I'll just play the guitar soloed right now. I think it's three individual tracks. This first part's just one, but you'll hear when the other two come in. And that's the end result. I actually did the processing for that in a different project just so I could record it with zero latency. And I'm trying to think. Yeah, so like as you can hear, it's really pretty, but there's no like indication of like what the bass is or any real like chord progression there. So the next step was bringing in the bass, and that's what really, I think, brings out the emotion of this part. Obviously, I'll get into the melodic stuff in just a sec, but once you put that chord progression underneath the acoustic guitars, it really just comes together a lot more. And as a brief side note, just because I think people sometimes struggle with how to keep interest in tracks, like I just want to say, like, the bass is playing the exact same thing that is playing in the drop and the intro and everything. So, I mean, one thing I do a lot is it's really just, if you could, like, just expanding things melodically, even over the same chord progression, can take you so far in terms of creating interest in a song. So, I mean, if you ever feel like a song's boring, like, I wouldn't stress about, like, just trying to create these entirely different sections, like with just totally different pieces of music. It's just, I don't know, try and expand on what you already have, because even this acoustic guitar, I mean, it's playing different things, but it's still, I mean, as you can hear, very on theme with this main electric riff. But to build out from there, so we have the acoustic guitars and the bass. We have the sine chords, same things that are playing in the drop. And then to keep building out melodically more, we have that sine lead that I soloed just a bit ago. And this is actually a good example of just sort of how, like, I'm trying to find the right words. Like, simple things can sound more complicated, and it's not necessarily hard to get there. Because this, if I mute all these, or even just the delay for that matter, and the reverb, this is a really, really simple, straightforward melody. But you just adding this delay makes it, it kind of transforms it into this, I don't know, big, drawn out, like seemingly more complicated melodic phrase, but it's not. It's just the delay. What is it? A quarter note delay just carries things over a bit. And then you get some verb on there. And that right there just generates huge interest from being super simple. And to kind of top it off, I just have the same vocals from the drop just kind of slowly build up. As you can see, it starts out a bit low passed, and then it lets a bit more in as it approaches the second drop, just to kind of indicate that's where things are moving. And yeah, I don't want to ramble on too much more here. So to finish things off, I guess I'll just cover the structure really quick. So because this is kind of a housey dance song, like I knew this first drop wasn't really enough to kind of get into like the, I don't know, dancing zone. Like, there's enough time to just really like feel it, because there's a reason, like, club music and like DJing, like, the beat doesn't stop. So to deal with that, I doubled the length of the second drop, and to keep it from sounding too stale, just because this is quite a long time just to have things be exactly the same, I took this little sine melody from the bridge, but it's an octave higher. And that's kind of bouncing around, and then two new vocal parts come in. So this one, and then, let's see, yeah, this one. And that's pretty much the only difference. I think I brought in this weird little like snare addition too. Let's see. Yeah, if you listen really hard, you can hear it, but it's nothing that that makes or break this song at all. And yeah, sorry, I feel like I've been talking for a really long time, and I don't want to, I don't want to bore any of you. I guess I'm not sure how many of you will find this too interesting anyway, but hopefully some of you do. And yeah, I at least like making these, so I'll still probably make at least another one or two for some of the other songs on my album. And yeah, thank you for watching.